First, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Stephanie Mauro. I am the owner and founder of College Planning 101. I started my business in November of '09, and my bio is on the back of the Develop a College Plan, so you can read that at your leisure. So, what are we going to learn today? Well, I always like to start my presentations with today's college costs. It is always an eye-opener for those who have never really looked at the total cost of attendance. Then we're going to talk about what does 4 years really cost. A lot of families can't get past year one, but I want to bring to your attention that it is at least a 4-year deal. So we'll look at that. Then we'll talk about the expected family contribution, which I will refer to as the EFC. The two different EFC formulas, there's the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, and then the CSS profile, which about 400 colleges, maybe 500 at this point, take. Then we'll talk about the assets that increase your EFC, how it affects the cost of college, and how financial need is determined. Then we'll talk about the aid and types of aid that are available. We'll talk about the merit and need-based aid and how it's determined. Merit is separate from need. And then I have 2 case studies, and then we'll go through the student loan evaluation. So 2016-2017, cost of attendance. NYU, 66. And when I talk about cost of attendance, there are actually 5 parts that you should be aware of. You're going to get billed for tuition. You're going to get billed for room and board. You're not going to get billed for books. That's a whole separate. Then there are miscellaneous fees like the health fee and the athletic fee. And you say, well, my student's not an athlete. Yeah, but everybody pays a little bit. And there are fees. And then there are miscellaneous expenses like dorm room stuff and shampoo and going out money. So there's a lot to the cost of attendance, and some portions are not billed. Fordham University at 65, Quinnipiac, Marist, Manhattan College, UConn in New York, we pay 50. In Connecticut, you pay 30. And then I have New York State schools. You can see you guys would pay 30 in the 30s, we pay in the 20s. And then CUNY Lehman, 10 and 20,000, that's actually only their tuition. Their room and board is unique because they don't have housing. Some of the CUNYs do, that's the City Universities of New York. So if your student is interested in the CUNY system, it can be cost effective even for an out-of-state resident, but you do have to be aware of the costs associated with rooming. And if your student only has, one roommate, it's going to be more expensive than if they have, 3 or 4 roommates. Any surprises? And this is why it's so important that our students graduate in 4 years, because at the end of 4 years, the costs are astronomical. Now, this is in your packet as well, but it's pretty clear up here. So when we're looking at the cost of attendance, and we're looking at, in this case, a SUNY or a state school, every year, the cost of attendance goes up. So I use a 6% increase year over year. In my 9 years of doing this, I've seen cost of attendance go up at 2 or 3% and as much as 6 to 8%. So I feel that when I'm doing the projection, a 6% cost of attendance increase is a sufficient number. I hope I'm wrong too. I hope it's less, but I've seen it go up more than 6%. So with a SUNY, at the cost of attendance being 22,000, really, merit and need-based aid is not provided to a lot of students. You got to be in like the top 10% of the incoming freshman class, and you've got to be super, poor, if you will. Definitely under $70,000 of income and very little assets in order to see any type of need-based money from a SUNY. And every college actually provides need at a different level. So I have some SUNYs that actually will provide 80% of need, like the SUNY Potsdam, for example, 80%. I'm not sure what UConn does, but I think UConn is like in the 50% range. And then you have colleges like Syracuse University that meet, on average, 96% of need. And of course, all the Ivies, they only meet need at 100%. I don't know what NYU does. I'm not sure. They're not very generous. You've probably experienced that. So as you can see, year over year, at a $22,000 a year cost, at the end of 4 years, it could be as much as $26,000. And today, Binghamton is $25,000, so that's probably going to be closer to $30,000 at the end of 4 years. And even at the most cost-effective option in New York, our state schools, it's still $96,000 a year to go to college. I mean, over 4 years to go to college. So you're still looking at $100,000 of some type of out-of-pocket, whether you have a 529, or you've saved, or you're debting your student up. The Stafford loan, you'll see this piece here, 55, 65, 75, and 75. That is a very good loan to take and start with if you are going to debt your students up for college. So anybody who's going to go into debt, start with the Stafford loan. This year's Stafford loan's interest rate is 5.05% interest. And if your expected family contribution is less than the cost of attendance, you get what's called a subsidized Stafford loan. I don't know if that really applies to this audience, but I will explain it anyway. So when your EFC is lower than the cost of attendance, $3,500 of the $5,500 is interest-free. So the government is paying the interest on that portion of the loan. 45 of the 65 and 55 of the 75. So all but $2,000 is interest-free. So if you started college, if your student started college this year, and you received a subsidized Stafford loan, 5.05% interest is what the current interest rate is for the Stafford loans. And that would only build on the $2,000 balance. Does that make sense to everybody? Am I explaining that clearly? If I am not explaining things clearly, please do stop me for clarification, okay? Then when we get to the private university at $66,000 a year, you may get merit, you may get need, and you can still be out of pocket over $40,000 after taking the Stafford loan and getting, I hope this is off. Sorry, my dad is in the hospital, so I apologize. So when you start putting 6% year over year, at the end of 4 years, a $66,000 college can turn into $78,000. When I started my business in November of '09, a college would be $58,000, $59,000, and we'd be like, oh my God, that's almost $60,000, that's crazy. And now we're looking at colleges that are over $70,000. So the cost, the increases have outpaced, as we all know, our investment performance, the raises we get. And one of the statistics I read was in 2008, when the market crashed, colleges still went up on average 5.8%. And they have to, though. Let's look at it from their perspective. They're running a business. They've got kids taking 5 showers a day. They've got to heat. They've got to cool. They've got to provide all the supplies and the maintenance and the faculty that have unions and get automatic raises every year, no matter what the market's doing. So they do have to pay their bills. And for those of you who have visited colleges, they are beautiful. And they are wonderful places for our students to really start their lives. So there's the, wow, that's expensive. But then when you start to understand the why behind it, you're like, yeah, I get that. So, NYU just came out with, med school for free. They're taking 90 students. If I read the article correctly, I saw 90 students a year. But hey, that's 90 students, but that's going to be the upper echelon. They're not even looking at financials. They're just going to take the creme de la creme, 90 students, and give them free medical school. One of my students is applying to dental school, Tufts. He got into Tufts. Yay! Like, yay. $100,000 a year. For 4 years, $400,000 for dental school. Crazy, crazy. And med school is like that too. So we want to be very cognizant of making sure our students graduate in 4 years. The best way to do that is actually 30 credits a year. A bachelor's is 120 credits. One of the main reasons why students are not graduating in 4 years is because they're only doing 12 credits a semester. And that's only 24 credits a year. My students, I tell them, if you can't, some majors are very intense, like pre-med. So you really want to maybe do only 12 credits a semester, but then do 6 credits over the summer. So they're like, wait, I got to do stuff over the summer. I'm like, yeah, get used to it. When you get into the real world, you don't have summers off. So keep your mind going. So keep that in mind. A 4-year bachelor's degree is 120 credits. And then the students get to their senior year and they're 12 credits shy or whatever, and they have to go for a whole other semester. And at the end of 4 years, what's half that semester? Then now we have a 5th year. with a possible 6% increase over that. And then there are natural 6-year deals. You got your law degree, you have physical therapy. Siena has a 5-year MBA program, so you get your master's in business administration in 5 years instead of 6. So there are some really great things out there, and then there are some things that are just going to take 6 years, and you know that going in. But for a marketing degree, and even your pre-med, and any other degree that's 4 years, you really want to be cognizant in making sure that the students are doing what they need to do, and that their advisors are making sure. But they love that 5th year. There's no FAFSA. They're not considered a graduate student, so there's no graduate benefits. Merit scholarships are no longer, because merit scholarships are only for 4 years. So be cognizant of that in how your student handles their coursework, because at the end of 4 years, $208,000 is a lot of money to spend for an undergraduate degree. So how am I supposed to pay for this? Well, we've got your money, your savings, current income, borrow, children's resources, and the only reason why I have the word retirement up there is to remind me to tell you, don't do that. That retirement is for you. And unless you have $1 million and 10 or 15 years more to work, you really shouldn't be touching your retirement. I've had parents take a home equity line of credit out on their house. That's one way. But still, then it's your debt, and that payment starts right away. The whole point here is to make good decisions before you get to the fact of having to pay for it. And that can start when your student is a baby, saving in that 529 plan, and or making sure that you're not choosing colleges that are so expensive that you are having to debt them up so much. Another thing that happens is the debt-to-income ratio for some families starts to squeeze, and we'll look at the end of the presentation at the student loan evaluation. And they're very strict about debt-to-income ratio because they want to make sure you can pay it, because so many students are defaulting, $1.3 trillion in student loan debt. It's a lot of money, and banks are like, wait a minute, you keep defaulting. So they're very cautious about that. The interest rates are high, and they're really looking at the cosigner. And then what happens is you get to junior, senior year, and you say, oh, 40 grand's not bad the first year. Do it the second year. And then you get to the third year, fourth year, and if your income and debt starts to squeeze because you still have your mortgage, you might have, other debt against your income, and then the private loans say, we're not going to give you any more money. And you're like, wait, what? You've been giving it to me all along. But you don't qualify now. And it actually happened to my girlfriend, and she said, you said it was going to happen. And in the fourth year, her son she could not co-sign the loan. She could not do it. And thank God he worked really hard over the summer, and he paid for his, final year. So you better really be cognizant of that. My favorite way to pay is other people's monies. Gifts from relatives, financial aid, merit aid, educational tax strategies. I do not go through educational tax strategies. I am not a CPA, and they can change at the swipe of a pen by our government. So when your student is in college and you're filing your taxes, please make your accountant or TurboTax program aware that you have a student in college, and they will let you know exactly what's available to you based on your income. Because I know a lot of the tax benefits, they kind of zero out with income. Like they have brackets. If you're under 100,000, you get the full amount. 100 to 150 gets a portion, and then over 150 gets nothing. So there are bracketed amounts that you would qualify for. So definitely, if you're using TurboTax, it'll ask you, do you have a student in college? And if you're working for working with an accountant, let them know as well. Gifts from relatives are always nice, but it's rare. So, grandma and grandpa could be saving in the 529. That's excellent. That's another way. And then financial aid is based on your income and assets. And merit aid is based on the fabulousness of your student. So I have a lot of families who are wealthy, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't qualify for anything. I'm like, well, you don't qualify for financial aid. But if your student understands the scores they need, and we position them properly for the right college, merit aid is for any student. Admissions looks at the merit. Financial aid looks at the financials, and they don't really cross over until the student's file is complete, and then they might start talking. But what they love is they love the student who doesn't qualify for need-based aid. They're like, oh, we only have to give them merit? Good, we'll take this kid, because it saves them money. Now they don't have to fill 2 buckets, but a lot of my families who do qualify for need-based money do get both. So I haven't hit the grand slam yet where I had the athletic scholarship, the need-based money, and the merit-based money. That's the grand slam I'm waiting for, but generally they do one or the other on athletics. So the admissions department's like, yeah, you're getting enough on the athletic scholarship. And I've had 5 kids get a full ride, but again, they're a real top student, very poor family. So that's the sweetness. And my brother even said to me, oh, Chris is gonna get a full ride. I said, really? In the car? Like, you make over $200,000 a year. To get a free ride, you have to be poor and have a top student. And my brother's like, really? I'm like, well, that's why you hired me, right? Not that he paid, but anyway. Are we clear on this? Everybody clear? Great.